Hello, for my presentation, I will be taking a look into the flora of the Kurpowruk River in the Antarctic. Hello, my name is Melissa, and I'll be focusing on comparing flora from the Kurpowruk River, which is known as present-day Alaska, and flora from the Arctic from the 1800s. I'm interested in the idea of how similar regions can still teach us about the differences among each other. An interesting aspect about the graph on this slide is how the data correlates with the decrease in latitude in Antarctica and the numbers of species dwindling as time goes on. An introduction into flora in colder regions. Taking a peek into Arctic flora, some scientists discover how over time the climate of the environments, how you mentioning have changed. In today's age in Antarctica and Alaska, the soil that is found in nearby regions have been known to be infertile, and the causes of extreme low temperatures has caused its population of flora to deteriorate. In the article, River Ecosystems in Changing Arctic, using retrospective and experimental approaches by understanding the future, and by Michael Richards, mentions the destruction of climate change. In figure 2 of my slides, the flora we are observing was once known as a fossil fern from the Alexandra Island. The same can also be seen in flora fossils that have been found in Alaska. Richard mentions that the records from the region show how there was a drastic change during the 31 years they had been exploring the surrounding area. In the quote they mentioned, a 31-year record revealed that the chlorophyllus biomass was significantly related to the discharge regime of the previous summer. Drastic changes in these environments can cause a harmful effect. Arctic flora records from the Kurpowruk River, present-day Alaska, 1887. During the colder seasons, the Kurpowruk River would experience signs that the animals that were living off the graze in the surrounding area were affected by the production of flora. Carbon has also had a high impact in this region that I'm focusing on. Scientists mentioned that the following in regards to carbon having relation to what scientists were keeping data about. An increase in negative carbon stores that is likely due to the effects of thawing permafrost and potentially attributed to increases in methane-driven carbon, ending quote. A common species of insect known as the Orthocladus rivalorum has also been shown to be affected by the sudden changes in the environment. 90% of streams found in Alaska are sourced by the tundra streams that are also helping when grazing on the land. Another fascinating point in regards to the research done in the surrounding area mentioned that the ecosystem structure and function should not be overlooked and should be considered a uniquely in Arctic constraints on these ecosystems. Before the consequences of climate change, Alaska was known to be the perfect spot for vegetation and for nearby animals to have a place to eat. Arctic flora records from Antarctica from 7,000 to 4,700 BP. To compare and contrast between both places we mentioned earlier, although they are similar in climates, one shows how drastically it had changed since before 1887. The other has shown scientists that it hasn't been much of a change since before. Scientists have been studying, in the words of Clark and Covey, mentioned that the time in Antarctica, they had noticed that the Arctic Peninsula was shown to have been more diverse in its flora compared to the flora near water sources. How both places look today and what has changed? Comparing Alaska's Kurpowruk River from 1887 to Antarctica's 7,000 to 4,700, Antarctica is known to have fewer flora than the previous mentioned Alaska. That being said, the type of flora I'll be referring that are familiar to the region of Antarctica include mosses, lichens, liverworts, and a small variety of flowers, which when going into this region, it was important that the data was consistent of one of the 5 known regions in Antarctica, despite there being 5 regions. Scientists mentioned a multidimensional scaling orientation showing that the species of southern Arctic, South Shetland Island, and northern Western Antarctic Peninsula are very similar to each other and are in floras of different regions in continental Antarctica. In the past, the flora that had been discovered has shown the vast diversity Antarctica once had. When reflecting back to Alaska, many may assume that the lack of ice is to be the contributor of the drastic change of flora. In conclusion, the two regions I mentioned in my presentation, although very being similar climates, one has shown drastic changes in its flora fossils, while the other one hasn't been as effective. In the future, as sea levels continue to rise and our Earth becomes warmer, many experts believe that they will see a bloom in flora since the conditions will be less harsh than the ones we once knew. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and I hope you learned something new.